I think that there's a system that we all know and exists in that puts all of the labor on women, and I think that it's completely wrong. I think that yes, that the work has to be collective, but women, you've done the work, you've written the pieces, you've written the book, you've educated us on how to do this actual work. So I think it's on individuals like myself and Craig and Jackson who will be here to actually start to take what you've taught us to start to engage men actively. I say this often, and a friend of mine said this as well, is that men like myself who identify as feminists should be on one-day contracts. That every day we have to wake up and prove to you all that we're actually really feminists, right? And we're actually gonna use our power, excuse me, and our privilege and our access to actually engage men and start to have these really honest conversations so that we're actually leading this so when rooms like this are actually filled with men who are listening to women on the stage, like how do we actually shift that actual paradigm? And it's on us to actually do that actual work and do that actual labor. I spent a lot of time working in sports. I'm a former NFL player. I work with athletes now. And what I learned is that men spend very little time thinking about the lives of women except for how to attract them. They actually spend very little time thinking of, no, it's just true. I think my biggest critique of the tech industry is that they would call themselves liberals. And that's actually much more sinister, to actually believe that a group of people are actually on your side and actually support you, but then they create an entire industry without you. And then say it's a meritocracy. And then ask you to prove why you should be involved in this actual industry. And I think that they have to wrestle with that and reckon with what that means and what it says about them. And they have to have conversations amongst themselves, right? And really do the work, the emotional labor of saying, like, we've created an entire industry that's relatively new. So it's not like that they could blame it and say it started back in the 1900s. No, this is a relatively new industry that has been isolated from women, from people of color, from LGBT folks. I mean, and they have to reckon with that and answer for that. One of the things that we're starting to do at YC is actually do inclusive leadership coaching, right? So I am coaching males at the top to learn how to actually create an inclusive environment, to learn how to flex their leadership style to meet the needs of women, folks of color, LGBT people, to actually start men's ally groups where men are actually sitting in rooms wrestling with these types of conversations where we can understand how they understand what inclusion means, how they understand what diversity means, how diversity and inclusion programs impact them, right? That it's not just a women's issue or a person of color issue, that it is an issue that impacts men also. So to actually do that actual real tangible work and to get leaders educated enough that they can speak about these issues just as eloquently as their CDO, right? Like, it can't just be that I've hired this woman of color now and it's her responsibility to change the entire organization. How do you get the leaders to show up like the AT&T CEO when he spoke around Black Lives Matter? Like that's a transformative change. Like, then everyone in the organization goes, wow, he or she means business about this actual issue. I have to get in line. You've got to make it personal to the leader and on the top. I know that we're going to discuss this later on, but I'm completely against the idea of the business case. The business case has been made forever. Exactly. It's existed forever. If you look at the LGBT same-sex marriage movement, there were plenty of individuals who were against same-sex marriage, including my own mother, because I'm a gay man, right? But as soon as I came out to her, it became personal. That movement, we've got to make this issue personal. And it can't be personal in this idea that I'm a man and I've had a daughter now and I care, because that is still in nature patriarchal, right? It has got to actually be, we actually have to have intensive time with men who actually care to a certain point, move them along a very slow journey, similar to the slow journey that I went on. I wasn't this way probably 10 years ago. I was an idiot. I wasn't thinking about these actual things. Someone gave me my first bell hooks book and I was like, wow, she's talking about me, right? Right? Like, that's literally what happened. So we have to actually find the men who are curious and start to engage them daily, yearly, monthly, as much as they can actually handle. And once it becomes personal, once they get it, once they see themselves in it, once that they actually believe that the world will be better if they're not the only ones in charge, then you will see actual real change. Other than that, it's just an intellectual exercise when I say, okay, women, prove to me why you should be here. Like, that's what the business case is really asking. Like, give me enough data, give me enough facts, give me something to prove to me that you should be here. But there was never a business case made for men.
Exactly.
It just is. It just is. Men just should be. Right, so we have to flip that, as Jackson's saying, on its head. It's nothing but a poll tax. It's a literacy test that we're making women take.